You can silent your phone, but if you have
I have my wife. Well,
right,
never on silent.
Right, it's never on silent. Yeah, my wife's on silent.
Really? Mine's not.
That's how we started the podcast.
Huh?
That's how we started the podcast.
That's how we started the podcast. My wife's not on silent. Oh my God, we're starting that. You're on camera.
I'm
You're
on
done.
camera saying it. Hey, Liz, she
Christina-
controls my phone anyway.
So I wanted to bring Joe Palopoli on. He works with Supreme Lending. We've had a great long relationship, and we're doing these type of podcasts here on the Morning Mike to give a little insider feel and look at what goes on behind closed doors with our agents, our staff, as well as our preferred partners. And I've been working with Joe for how many years? It's been a lot.
12 years.
12
September
years.
2012. Wow. I started at the Remax office.
We
There.
started at the Remax office almost that long ago. Wow, I thought it was 10, but yeah, you're right, 12 plus years. And so give us a little feel of who you are. Tell us a little background about you, how long you've been doing loans, and just so that our viewers understand who they're speaking to, who you're speaking to.
Yeah, well, I grew up down here. My family moved to Margate in 1969, so I obviously still live in the area.
Wow.
Never left. And I started as an appraiser.
Okay.
In 1987. So I was an appraiser for 9 years.
Wow.
And then got into the mortgage side of it, just, a natural progress into the mortgage side of it back in May of 96.
Okay.
So I was an appraiser for 9 years and then jumped into the mortgage side of it in 1996 and still doing it. Still doing it.
It's crazy. It's funny. This is why we're doing these things. Is I just
Yeah.
remember Joe started working at Remax Park Creek. You were like the in-house lender. You started at a different company, and then obviously you changed to Supreme. But it was just amazing. There was another agent at the office that I was close with, Dave Scheich, and we would just obviously have our crazy stories and dealing with clients and things got loud and we talking and our offices right across from each other. And then there's this guy Joe that would walk in and he would like look at me and I'm like, oh man, that guy has got a lot on us. He's heard our stories. And then we started talking and then I had questions because you're right, you were an appraiser before, and even today if we ever have issues we can kind of look at it together. I mean, it's a really great perspective with a seller or a buyer that you have that knowledge, and you've provided me so much when I go to an appraiser, what to give them, what numbers to look at. So it's been very beneficial, you being an appraiser. I'm glad you mentioned that because it's been a big asset to our team for you to give some of that more insight when you can say, hey, well, let me do a quick pencil and see what the appraisal might be. Here's what you should look to. Here's some comps I found. I'm like, wow, I didn't see that one. And, it was on the county records, and this one may have been a buy owner instead of an MLS sale. So we definitely started out like you kind of seeing how crazy this this Michael Citron and team and at Remax, and then it transcended. So like Joe's become more of just that relationship of lender to agent for us. I mean, we actually talk about business. We bring up, marketing ideas. We've done a lot of sponsorships together. So it's really been a different relationship, and you've seen our progress. So look at the idea that when we started at Remax, I worked at Remax for 13 years. Yeah. We then, started Parrot Realty, moved here about 3.5 years ago. Look into the eyes of like, where Parrot Realty metamorphosized. We were Parkland Parrot team at Remax Park Creek, and then we were Citron Group. So there's a lot of moving parts there, but kind of give the audience like a perspective of how you saw where we started to where we are, and some insights. Go crazy.
Yeah. Well, a lot of insights, because when I started there in September 2012, you were back in the corner of that office there, and it was just you. And the thing about it is, you always thought big. Yeah. What can I do? How do I do it? How do I get big? How do I grow? I mean, those are the conversations we had, what am I seeing out there in the market? Which teams are, you had this growth, you wanted to be the biggest and the best out there. And that was the majority of our conversations back then too, on going in, how do I get to the next team? And then when you did, go on your own with Parrot Realty, and then I'm thinking, I just knew it was going to be huge for you, dude. I just knew it. Yeah.
It's just a crazy.
And you took it to another level. And, it was one of the first things I just said when I saw you today. is, you're killing it. You're doing an unbelievable job. So congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you talk about like where we started. I mean, you've grown your business at Supreme.
Yeah.
And we've seen you transcend to this big level with huge success, all the awards and accolades. I mean, well, Christina is definitely, you got to give some credit to your wife. She's doing a lot more than
she's
people
keeping
think.
me out there,
You're
yeah.
the face of the company, but she's
Right.
definitely the
No
behind
doubt.
the scenes, and
There's no
she's
doubt.
handling a lot for you, and she does an amazing job. But
Yeah.
the idea is you've gotten where you've been able to service way more clients and elevated to so many more real estate partnerships. And, I've seen your growth. So we've
Yeah.
grown together.
We have, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing that we don't talk about a
Well,
lot.
I think the common denominator is, that we want to be the best and we want to be the experts out there. You want to be the expert, top realtor, but it's, you have to be an expert. You got to know, you got to learn. And I'm the same way. I follow the market, and, I think my conversations with customers are different than other loan officers, because I try and follow the market. And I, in lieu of just quoting a rate, I like, trends. Where were the rates 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago today, the Fed lowered the Fed funds rate. Mortgage interest rates are higher today than they were 3 weeks ago today.
What does that
You
make
know
sense?
why? It doesn't make sense to most people, but there's reasons for that. So that's a big part of both of us.
And
And how we've grown.
And I think that understanding that the way that we work is very similar. And, you mentioned that because we're trying to give clients this concierge-like experience. So just recently, working with clients that, we meet at open houses, or they see our marketing, they live in Park when they call us. A lot of sellers are buyers too. And, they're asking for the world now. People with the change in real estate, that the agents that are going to succeed, and we're teaching this to our new agents, is that you have to give that concierge-like experience,
Right.
and you have to be able to go above and beyond. So when you're working with a preferred partner, lender, title, whatever
It's
the
an
partner,
extension.
it is an extension.
Yeah,
so when
absolutely.
you're saying here, this person is available, they're going to call you back.
Yeah.
First off, they're going to give you this information. If it's at night, if it's morning, if it's weekends, a lot of people don't know that the banks close at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And you're not getting that person, that maybe that banker you've worked with 20 years. I always
Right.
said the story. My mom was going to get a loan, and this is before I was, just when I
Right.
got my real estate license. She's like, I've known this lady for 30 years at the bank. I'm like, Mom, that lady's not going to
Yeah.
touch your loan.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it
Well,
better?
same thing. The most common phrase I hear, I bank at, ABC Bank. They know everything about me. And my comeback is the mortgage department knows nothing
Correct.
about you.
They're
You
and you're
know,
going to be,
and they're going to
pawned
ask
off.
you for the same documentation that I'm going to ask you for. And the difference is, you're working just business hours with them.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
And you're dealing with, not a lot of experience. I mean, there are experienced loan officers with a lot of the large banks, but there are a handful. Most experienced loan officers are outside of banks,
And I
with lots of experience. So it's a different. It's
Totally
different.
different.
It's totally different. It's a different experience.
And I think also getting back to the agents here, and just that's what we started, other couple agents at Park Creek when we worked there at Remax, they got that. And I saw that because you're not just giving the information to help buyers make informed decisions on loans and programs. And I learned all that. And I always say I'm good at a lot of things. I'm not great at a lot of things. So, I know when it's time to turn you over, I'm not becoming a mortgage expert.
Right.
But the thing that I like about it is that you're giving us a lot of the tools to keep the conversations going. So then the
Right.
introduction's way easier to give to you, because then I have a little bit more information on them. Then you're talking to them and coming back to me. Well, I spoke to them here. This is the type of loan program you should be. This is what they said to you, but I came up with this idea. We kind of come together, and it's like,
Right.
wow, these people really, that's why I think we connect well, because our synergies are similar. And I think a lot of the agents now that we have our brokerage, and we have 10, 15 agents now working here that are going to get that. And that's
Right.
why I'm telling them, this brokerage we opened so I can give you my 20 plus years, yours 29, 30 plus years of experience. And we combine that into all the facets of the deal. And look,
Yeah.
mortgages are big. I mean, you were saying 7 out of 10 buyers have to sell now. That was just in your presentation
Or
to the staff.
preferred, right? So, well, basically, one of the main reasons is, yes, there are buyers that can afford both payments on their current house. Most prefer not to.
Sure.
But a lot of people intend on selling their current house because there's a lot of equity there. Those are the proceeds they're using to, if they're moving up, to put down on the new place. And,
yeah, and
300, 400, 500,000 is a lot of money to
sure. It's a lot of equity
to
right now.
liquidate or borrow from a family member or something. So,
And I think we just had a class today you gave, and every time you come in, and I'm on the market, I'm watching things, I'm going all the media networks, we're looking at the ticker, I'm looking at the 10-year, we're looking at so much to stay informed. But every time you come in and teach, I learn something new.
Oh, good.
And I think that the agents here getting that, and I
Yeah.
think it's making them better agents, and it's helping their clients because they're definitely introducing you, because they're not lenders, we're not mortgage professionals, but I think having that where you're like fishing, you're keeping them on the line.
Yeah.
When people come to my open houses, I'm able to talk, because now it's more about like the house is going to sell itself. We do great marketing, we present it, we get the most people in, but what people are really asking about is how much things cost.
Right.
What are different programs? What are the rates? How am I going to afford this?
Right.
And it's like, well, I know enough information. Here's all the tools you're giving us, and the flyers and the brochures. I know, like, I'm doing videos now talking about how much money you need to afford per month and per year.
Yeah.
I mean, those are really doing well on social that you're helping
Right.
me provide. And now I'm just becoming more an informed agent, even in my 21st year in real
Yeah.
estate. So these agents in their 5th and 8th and 10th and 15th that we're bringing in, they're learning so much more, because, you can teach an old dog new tricks.
You can, listen, everyone has an idea of where interest rates are. You hear it on TV, the news, wherever, but the important part is the trends, and what causes interest rates, inflation, the economy. Over the years, inflation and the economy is different, and it's different month to month. So as we, mentioned earlier, long-term interest rates today are higher 3 weeks, from when the Fed lowered the Fed funds rate. Most people think rates would be lower, but there's things in the economy and inflation that kind of caused, and historically, as I showed you today, since 1984, every time the Fed started cutting rates, long-term interest rates went up after the first cut. I showed you that today.
And I didn't know that.
Historically, every time. They do peak, and then eventually they start trickling down with all the additional cuts. Hopefully we've reached that peak. I don't know for sure. And then rates will start trickling down again. But that's something that most people don't know. And trends are good. You got to know the trends. You don't have to quote a rate today, but knowing where rates were, where you think they're going compared to last year with the markets. Everyone wants to know appreciation levels. Sure. It's important stuff.
So the Parrot Realty agent. Now, obviously, we had a team at Remax. We've come over here to Parrot Realty. What does that agent look like to you, and how is it different or similar to agents that you've worked with in your career?
The Parrot Realty agent is a lot more informed because of you. Right.
They better be.
They are, and it's a lot of the information, obviously, that I'm trickling down with your listings, a lot of these flyers and these wealth creation flyers, because it's knowledgeable. And your agent out there is just telling me, you just had a conversation, and the customer was at the open house and goes, "You're so smart. I want to work with you."
Yeah.
And that's credit to you.
But it's credit to you because you give us that information.
Right.
And every time we do open houses, Joe creates our open house flyers. He does this wealth flyer. When you're giving, as I said earlier, people want that information almost more so than the house information, because they have that. There's a wealth of information online that all of these syndicated websites are providing now, but they're not giving that expert advice on what you should put down, how you should put down, how you're going to create wealth. What's the rates going to be? What could you get this program to be? Buy downs, things of that nature. There's so many different things, and I think it's actually become more popular knowing that information for as you said, for the agent to want to work with, for the buyer to want to work with that agent, whoever it is, if it's myself, Stephanie, Paula, or anybody else on the team. The secret sauce is that knowledge.
Right. It's having all the tools, as they said, the tools in the tool belt. You don't use them all, but you have them.
You're ready.
And
so you look like you have
I'm trying to provide you all the tools for each listing, whether you need them or use them, but they're there for you, and you're going to learn from that tool for that specific listing, maybe on the next one. Maybe you'll use it on the next one, but at least you're going to be aware of how to use it. So that's the key is having all that stuff. Because they're just different conversations than,
I think the other thing that we've done through, being at Remax, seeing the transition to when we had COVID, and now, into owning our own brokerage. The agents that are succeeding and then we're really putting this out to our team, is that they're using the preferred partnership of yourself and our title agent, that you're able to go, if you are presenting an offer, you're using that opportunity to show that your presentation of the offer is the best.
Right.
So we've had you call the listing agent, speak even with sellers before. I mean, look, we've had deals where we've represented the seller and the buyer lost financing. And you came in, like I always call, you got to be the closing pitcher. I can get them up. I used to call you the Mariana Rivera. Remember
that's
those
back in 2012. That's always how the first introduction goes. Is, hey, who's that guy Joe over in the other office? I got a deal falling apart. Let's bring him in.
That's what we used to call it. Like, I would call you up, and then the other things are like, I feel like people in real estate now, with the change in our settlement, is you don't want to go out and show buyers properties unless they're qualified. And I think that buyers want to be qualified. They want to know what their best programs are. And I think with getting the buyer brokerage agreement signed, I think it's a great way to have that buyer consultation. And you're coming in way earlier than we even were doing it before. We would maybe show them a couple houses just to make them feel comfortable. But now you got to get a buyer brokerage agreement. So you've already got to put this presentation. We've just elevated ourselves. But with your help, that presentation comes with, hey, let's talk to this lender that we really think that you should speak to. And they're going to answer a lot of these questions. So you're not just feel comfortable working with us, but you're comfortable with the process. And it's making our agents sell and look better, because you're making them look better because they're getting the questions answered. And as you said, they want to work with us. They're willing to sign those buyer brokerage agreements.
I mean, everyone is always in the preliminary stages of buying that next house, whether even a first-time home buyer. All right, my lease is going to expire at the end of the year. I want to start looking now. Or my lease is going to expire at the beginning of next year. Or we're thinking about selling, buying something else. It's this, the sooner you get pre-approved and you know what all of your options are, whether those options are today, end of the year, beginning of next year, the sooner you know what those options are. Do you need to sell to buy, or can you buy without selling? How's my credit? Do I need to get my credit scores up? What loan amount am I going to get on jumbo loan? Do I need a higher credit score? Do I need to work on my credit to reach those scores? There's so much involved in a pre-approval than just going out, buying a house, and then applying for a loan and finding out, okay, my loan's denied because I don't meet the guidelines. Well, that's the purpose of the pre-approval. And every pre-approval is different. Your pre-approval is different than mine.
It's true.
You own, a business and all this, and your profile is much different than mine. So there's more documentation in getting you pre-approved than a W-2 for me. So everyone is different. They're not all the same.
Just understand learning this and going through this almost 13 years of knowledge of learning about loans. I'm asking the right questions when the buyer is not you. Like, I have a listing and the buyer's using another lender. I know what the question is. It's almost like we have a pre-approval process for the lender. And I have my new agents come, and they're not new agents in the business. They're just new agents here.
Right.
And like Gonzalo came, I'm like, you have to ask these questions to the lender for your listing.
He wasn't used to it at the old place. Right.
And he's looking at it. He's like, wow. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, Joe helped us put those questions together because we want to make sure that person is fully qualified, because if they're not, then why are we going under contract with them? And if they're not answering you back, you're testing that lender, because let's be honest, real estate agents are amazingly, popular and people want to work with them. But once a deal goes under contract, you become the pole position on the deal. Yeah, I'm riding back seat.
Right.
I'm helping, but that's what I say. You're the lifeline of the process at that point. Yeah. So I always say, if a lender doesn't call me back for days, if I have no answers, if they don't have a voicemail, I mean, it's a presentation. You're testing that lender, and you're asking mostly yes or no questions. We're not, obviously discriminating in any way. We're just making sure that they've done the proper procedure. Do they need to sell to buy?
Right.
I mean, it's the first question I ask.
Right. Yeah.
Because maybe the lenders, I don't know. I get that. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Let's push the brakes a little bit.
And maybe they don't know because they didn't get that far in depth into the pre-approval. Maybe it was a preliminary conversation saying, "Oh, you're not going to have no problems qualifying."
Why I say, you get pre-qualified versus pre-approved. Right. Anybody can go shop
Yeah.
They can call up their bank, they'll give you something, and then they'll start going out and saying, I'm fully approved. And then, okay, well, I can't ask for everybody I show a house if I have the listing. But when you put an offer, we go to those lenders first
Right.
before I present the offer
It's
to the seller, because I
important.
need to be knowledgeable
Right.
on behalf of the seller. Because I always tell them, if I'm not comfortable, you shouldn't be comfortable.
Right.
And sometimes you've come in and helped us out where, hey, this is a family member or friend. I'm not switching lenders. I'm like, look, I'm not discriminating. I don't feel comfortable, and I'm not you.
Right.
And then sometimes I get you on the phone, and you're like, I really don't feel comfortable. And there's been times you're like, Michael, those are good questions. I did ask a couple more details, and I think if they do this and this and this, it'll work.
Yeah.
And they do the loan, and we're happy, and that's the extra service we're getting. It's not
Right.
always that you're doing a loan or saving a loan. You're just helping us do more business and make ourselves, in front of a client's perspective, seller or buyer,
Yeah.
where we're more knowledgeable. So, the thing I would ask you to say, since you've seen so much of this metamorphosis of myself and our company, that I'm trying to take what I've learned and try to put it together so agents can fast track success. So what kind of agent do you think would be ideal to come to Parrot Realty and work, that you've seen from when we really started this business 3.5 years ago? You've seen the transitions of agents that have come here. But from the beginning of when we started our relationship, what kind of agent do you think should be coming to Parrot Realty?
Well, I think any agent, really,
Not every
listen, any agent, you're a great mentor, and you've had a lot of younger agents who maybe haven't had that much success that I'm seeing are growing big time. Big time here.
Yeah.
So, and then I think any other agent that is having great success or medium success can take it to another level. I think it's just your process is working. New, medium producer, or even large producer. What you guys are doing here is different than everyone else. You guys are doing a great job. You really are.
A lot of companies, we talk about this, and you work with a lot of these agents, and you do a great job. A lot of the companies' philosophies are to bring agents on, to give them a lot of leads. Maybe they're 8 paper leads, but they got a call, and then maybe they're ready in 6, 9, 12 months. And
Right.
you have an in-house sales representative that's calling these, and they're running around. I just don't see the growth. We worked at RE/MAX. They gave you a desk. You paid your fees. You got a commission split, and you were on your own. In
Right.
13 years, I never got a deal from RE/MAX. We
Right.
talked about this,
Right.
and I didn't ask for anything. I just wanted my space. I
Right.
liked the name.
You
and
had the brand,
It was
right.
professionals.
Right.
But the idea of coming here and wanting agents to be able to become their own version of what I've done on a bigger level.
Right.
We've brought on some really great agents that I've said, look, if you do this right, I think you'll be better than where I am.
Yeah.
And they look at me like, are you crazy? I'm like, I really see it.
Some of the agents in a short period of time, just a few months, what the volume that they're doing now. And just, I can tell from when I met them the first time
To now.
today, the conversations that I'm having today, they're different.
Yeah.
They're different conversations. They're different questions. They know more. They're more knowledgeable. They're more experienced, whether it's a few months with some of the agents or a couple of years with some. They're different. They've grown.
The difference
they've
is
really grown.
I want them to see through the eyes. So a lot of the agents have their desks closer to mine, and I want them to hear my conversations. I
Right.
want to jump in and help them because I'm trying to fast track their business. And we're taking on agents that are doing maybe, $60,000 to $120,000 in sales per year, and they're going up, 30 to 40% the first year they're here.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, why you're doing it? Because you're seeing what I'm doing and where some of the other successful agents are doing here with partnerships like you're providing, where you're being able to become more knowledgeable. By being more knowledge, you're confident.
Yeah,
and then you're on those appointments, you're in front of those open houses. And I think the agents coming here are getting such a wealth of knowledge because we're in the trenches. You're in the
Knowledge
trenches,
is it,
Joe,
you
still.
know,
You've been in the
right.
business longer than me.
Yeah,
You're still digging in there.
Yeah, when I started in '87 as '96 as a loan officer, it was one big open building. We all and desks would line up. The loan officers were lined up on one side of the room. All the processors were on the other side. And one of the successful loan officers said, "Get a chair, and put it in the middle of the room, and sit there and listen for a few hours." Because all the loan officers were all there lined up. He said, "Just listen to the conversations," and I did.
Yeah.
And they were all different conversations. And you can tell now, when I think back and, even a few years after that, the conversations that some of the top tier loan officers at that time, the volume they were doing and how they were doing it, those conversations were different than the ones that weren't doing that much business. They were just completely different. so you just learn.
If you're present.
Right. If you're present and you listen, it's a different, there was more knowledge, more, expertise on one side than the other. So, yeah. So them listening to you is huge. I mean, it's great advice.
Well, I thank you for being a part of our success. I always say it's about the extension of the partnership relationships that we have, because we're nothing without that. And I always give credit where credit's due. We've had a great relationship. I think it's transcended just the normal lender to realtor. Our agents here look at you way differently as a business partner, and you just go deeper because you care. I think you care about our clients, but you definitely care about where the referral partnership is.
Yeah.
And the agents are really getting it, who worked in the business for a long time. And they're like, this is different. I feel like a synergy. I feel like, this person's right there to jump in when I need it.
Right.
And you're right. Being present is everything. So at Parrot Realty, the agents that come in, we are going to hold them accountable. And that's why some agents, it doesn't work out. And I don't want to hire agents that I don't think deserve to have that knowledge and being able to be held accountable.
Right.
Even in our partnership relationship, you're telling me, Michael, this deal here, this is what we need to do. Okay, let's get the agent in. And we're able to have that conversation. With the agents learning how to grow their own business is what I see different in the business. I don't see brokerages trying to promote them to be their own successful agent where they're hitting their sphere of influence. They're hitting a neighborhood. I don't see that. I just see leads getting, kind of thrown out there and let's sink or swim and you're on your own. That's how I was at RE/MAX.
You have to have, knowledge. You have to have different conversations. And those conversations will set you apart from everyone else. The knowledge about the markets and whys and the wheres and hows, if you know those answers and you say them, it's important.
Yeah, marketing's creative and doing crazy videos, and we talk about, but at the end, somebody who's going to do a professional purchase in our sphere, this West Broward, Parkland, Colorado Springs area, I mean, they want knowledge. In the end, it might get you in the door, but you're not going to close the door or walk through the door if you're not going to be able to teach what you've learned to make somebody's experience flawless, because it's their biggest purchase, is their biggest sale. You're a representation of us. Right. Sometimes I say we're a representation of you too.
Throw the stat out there. Right? 66% of someone's wealth is in real estate.
Correct. So understand
that, just to show you how much it's important.
You're either paying somebody, you're paying your mortgage off, or you're paying somebody else's.
All right. And then the other stat is, a homeowner's wealth is 40 times more than a renter.
It's crazy. Yeah. Well,
that's a big stat. So
I was a renter years
investing
ago.
in real estate, is huge. It's huge. It's a big investment.
Yeah, no. And I thank you for having the investment, working with us and forming this great bond. And we see bigger things as we grow agents and we bring new agents on, like they're excited to meet you and vice versa. I think it's just a great synergy, because in the end, technology has changed, but the knowledge and growing and learning, that's what's going to separate you in business. And that's the agents we're looking for. Agents that need to they feel comfortable being uncomfortable. And they need to step their business up and learn how to have better conversations, be more confident, and look at their business as a business, not high, low, peaks. I want to have it where how many pending sales you're going to average, what you need to do to market yourself to elevate it in your, in your own personal sphere of influence, past clients, and how to start farming and making your own money. That's what I see is not happening in real estate. Brokerages don't do it because it's not a moneymaker.
Right.
And it should be, because in the long term, the agent's going to do well for themselves, and they're not going to need to be so reliant on you feeding them leads. And we give a lot of leads, but I don't want agents to only be getting leads and just being, beholden to those leads.
They need to start and reach out and start their own businesses.
And they'll make way more money.
And the agents here have been doing that. So,
great.
Yeah. Well,
thank you so much. I appreciate
me to be part of it.
No, thank you for everything. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Morning Mike.